Om Shri Sai Ram Sandeha Nivarini by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba. Chapter 14 Bhakta Swami, the inner meaning of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana which you explained is really very interesting. If only one probes deeply what else is needed, that kind of Mahabharata and Ramayana is taking place in every heart through the action and interaction of Manas, Chittam, Buddhi and Indriyas. You said that the Bhagavatam is also occurring in the same manner. If you will kindly explain how what is happening, we can, after knowing its inner meaning also, start following the subtle Ramayana and Mahabharata and Bhagavatam, all three. So please tell me about the Bhagavatam, Swami. Well, the Bhagavatam is not like the other two. It has no qualities and no form. It deals with the Atma, which is beyond the qualities or gunas, senses or indriyas, the manas and the chittam. It deals with the powers and pros of the Atma and its apparent activities or leelas in various forms it assumes. The Bhagavatam contains the stories of the incarnations of that which is the witness of everything. Bhakta, Swami, what are the forms which that witness assumed? Why did he assume those forms? Swami, really speaking, he is all forms, Sarva Swarupa. There is no limit to the number or nature of his forms. Still, if something must be said in conformity with what is evident to the Prakriti or world, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Vamana, Narasimha, Rama and Krishna, these are his incarnations in order to transact the creation, the sustenance and the dissolution of the world, and to punish the wicked and protect the good. He assumes himself the form he designs as best at the time and for the purpose he has set before himself. When that purpose is realized, he is as before the witness, the Atma Swarupa. Bhakta, Rama and Krishna also punished the wicked and protected the good. Isn't it, Swami? Then how do you say that in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata there are gunas and rupas, while in the Bhagavatam there are no gunas? Swami, you see, gunas have a beginning and an end. The Atma has neither. Rama and Krishna too have no qualities essentially. They have demonstrated how, being above gunas, it is possible to keep all gunas under control. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata stories have an end, isn't it? In that sense, the Bhagavatam has no end. It speaks of the Lord who has no beginning or end. It tells of the forms which the Lord wore with reference to the yuga or age, the time and the objective. The other two, on the other hand, teach the correct policies to be followed in this false, evanescent world and urge men to follow Satya, Dharma, Shanti and Prema. Do you understand? Bhakta, then the Bhagavatam is of no practical use to us, so to say. Swami, what? It is the Bhagavatam that is of most use to the sadhakas. It alone contains the real secret of the Lord, His real glory and His real path. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata endeavor to some extent to uplift the common man, the ordinary man, by moral teaching and example. They show how man can deserve the Lord's grace. But those who seek to know the nature of the Atma and of Paramatma should study more than anything else the Bhagavatam. Bhakta, Swami, what is the relation between Bhagavata, Bhagavata, Bhakta, Swami, what is the relation between Bhagavanta, Bhagavata and the Bhakta? Swami, it is the same as the relationship between the Maharaja, the Yuvaraj and the Kumara Raja. Bhagavanta or the Lord is the Maharaja, of course. The Bhagavata is second in rank because it has come from the Lord as a derivative with the status of Yuvaraja. The Kumara Raja, third in rank, is dependent on both these, and so is the Bhakta. The status of Kumara Raja is not an ordinary one. He merits the position of the Maharaja. The rest are inferior to these three. Those who do not rise up to the status of Bhakta or Kumara Raja cannot merit the position of Maharaja or Bhagavanta. Bhakta. Then, Swami, the yogis, the jnanis, the ascetics, don't they deserve that position? Swami, whoever he may be, without bhakti and the love of the higher truth, how can anyone become a yogi or a jnani or an ascetic? They too have bhakti in an equal measure. Take laddu, jalebi, Mysore pak and a number of other sweets. In each of them, as the common cause of sweetness, there must be one article sugar, isn't it? How else can they be made otherwise? So also, in these three parts, the sweetness of the Lord's name or bhakti is an ingredient. Without it, the very names of these objects become absurd. Bhakta, another point, Swami, can one approach the presence of the Lord only if he has faith in the Lord, and only if with that faith he contemplates his name and worships his form through japa, dhyana, bhajana, puja, etc. That is to say, is it not possible to attain that position through the path of truth, the path of dharma, the path of prema, the path of service to others? Swami, well, how can the qualities you mention originate without the fear of sin and the fear of God? Are these paths and the qualifications needed for them ordinary and common? No, they are the doors to the inner apartment of the Lord. Those that follow those paths can, of course, easily reach the precincts of the Lord, but yet there is a difference between close relatives and friends. Those who develop only these qualities are friends, but those who practice them along with devotion to the name and form become close relatives. That is the difference. The smarana and the dhyana on the nama and the rupa helps to strengthen the gunas also. Without that foundation, the gunas cannot be strong and firm and pure. The Lord's name and the Lord's rupa remove the dross from the qualities of man. Bhakta, but the bhakta and the man with good qualities both attain the same place, isn't it, Swami? Swami, certainly the merely good man becomes a candidate who deserves the place. The good man who has bhakti is entitled to the place, he cannot be passed over. Bhakta, Swami, there are many people who are active, doing various things under the slogan, the service of man is the service of God. Do their deeds earn the grace of God? Swami, why do you ask so? Certainly for those that do service with that attitude, but it is very hard to get the real feeling. Considering others as men, simply saying that serving them is to serve God is not sincerity, isn't it? The mind will then run in two channels. Grasp the glory of Madhava or God and have faith in it. Understand firmly that Madhava is in every Manava. Believe that service to Manava or man is serving Madhava only. Then your actions will certainly earn the grace of God. What greater qualification is needed than that? Instead, if service is done for name and honor and fame, and if there is a craving in the mind for the fruits of one's actions, then the statement Service to man is service to God has no meaning, nor will one get the result expected. Bhakta, it is very interesting, Swami, speaking about the Bhagavatam itself, evoked many holy ideas and morals today. So, if one describes the indweller of the Bhagavatam, that is the Bhagavanta or God, what invaluable truths will emanate. I am indeed blessed this day. Swami, so, have you understood it all? Bhagavatam is the story. Bhagavatam is the story of the beginningless, the endingless Atma. It is the same in both forms, subtle and gross. It is subtler than the subtlest, grosser than the grossest. It is no limit or measure. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata are itihasas, historical epics. The Bhagavatam is different. It is the description of the nature of the Atma. It instructs in the path of bhakti. It can never end, nor has it ever a finish. This is the significance of the Bhagavatam. Jai Sai Ram.
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ